this is what we're seeing today. Any question, as I mentioned, please go ahead at any time. So today is introduction to the production control module. And this is what we are going to see, the 4 types of losses, the international ratio OEE. We will talk about profitability. We will talk about MES, virtuous cycle monitoring. We will take a look, a very brief, fast look to other possibilities, not just production control. There are other videos and other webinars specialized in other modules. So you can check that out if you are interested after this. We will talk about processes, results, and people and persons. We will see some basic concepts, and we will do an exercise to consolidate what we will see. This photograph that maybe if you have already worked with Edin, you might already know it. This photograph is key, is the key, because all companies are losing money because they don't see their performance in real time, and they don't have the, let's say, the Pareto of their losses, and therefore they are not aware that they are losing money. So this is the paradigm that we want to change. We want to put a big dashboard here, for example, here on the left, instead of all these shelves here. We want to put a big screen, 55 inches screen here on the right, on the wall, so that these guys can see that their performance is making the group, the organization, the company to lose a lot of money in real time and not the causes. And I am insisting on the screens because I just visited one company last week, and they have already those screens. And every time we talk with clients, which is daily, we see them with those screens, those big screens. So you might do a project, and you might bring them digital transformation, and you might forget, or you might leave to the end of the project, you might leave the installation of those big screens, and that's not good. So what I'm trying to convince you is that you have to bring visual ratios like this, like the screen. I have a demo that we will work later during this presentation, during this meeting with you. Later we will play a little bit with an Edin, and as I have it installed, then this screensaver that you are seeing on my screen will come out. If I don't move my mouse, then this screensaver comes up. So sorry to insist, you might think that you can leave this for the end of the project, or that this is not as important. This is almost the most important thing, is to put screens, and so that everyone in the company is seeing how they perform in real time, so they get motivated when they improve, they see where they have the losses, these kind of things. So by doing that, we're making these losses visible. And some people might say, why don't we put money? Why don't we put, instead of the OEE, and why don't we put, instead of a graphic where I see my performance, if it's going higher or up and down, why don't we put money? Because some companies don't want to put money. Some companies don't want the employees to see the money, the direct quantity of the money. So that's a tricky thing. You might think, oh, let's put money, which is because the picture, this photograph, is talking about paper money. You can see here paper money. So why don't we put, instead of the OE, why don't we put money quantities? That's not a good idea. Many companies don't want to see the money figure. They want to see ratios which enclose, more things like, and then you can, the OE is good because you can click on it and then you can find out if these guys are losing money because of a quality problem or a speed problem. And cost, it's also a nice, it's the fourth type of loss. So cost is also necessary, but I insist many clients don't wanna, they can hardly accept to have all these dashboards. So if they were converted into money, that would be a complete no. You don't want to do that, okay? So let's continue. Any question at any time. So I mentioned that there are 4 types of losses. You have to be able to explain these to potential users. This is very important because we have to be able to explain to potential users that all their work can only have 4 types of losses. Availability, it's not working all the time. Sometimes we do not work, we're stopped. Speed, sometimes when we work, we do not work at the speed we should. Quality, some of my results are not good, are discarded or reworked. And consumption, excessive consumption. Sometimes I'm consuming more energy or more time, not more time, sorry, that would be availability. More energy or more resources in terms of spare materials or how do you say these raw materials, things like that, okay? So I guess you're familiar already with the OEE. You're familiar. Tomas, do you need, sorry, Marco, do you need any particular explanation on the OEE? No, it's clear? Okay, you're mute, Marco, you're mute. We cannot hear you.
Sorry for the microphone. No, I'm familiar because in our expertise we have two sides, the industry 4, but now we added from 2 years lean management, and we also use OEE. And as you know that the OEE sometimes are defined differently from company to company.
Exactly, and I'm very happy that you mentioned lean, because one of the good things of this platform that we've built is that it has been built over a very powerful theory, which has been developed by many people during decades, and that I'm sure you agree with me, that's the superpower. So the superpower is when you have the technology plus a very, let's say, powerful theory. And that's, believe me, that's one of the things that makes me more happier is when I go to a company and we are applying all those things like OE and many more concepts and ideas, and then we are putting the technology, and that's changing the company. That's changing the company. And by the way, maybe you don't know this, you are not just saving costs, producing faster and better and these things, you are also saving CO2 generation. So we are also friendly with the environment, which is good. Things, if we're gonna talk top level OE thing, because the people who's attending today has already a good knowledge of OE, then let's go to the complex things of OE. For example, one complex thing, Marco already introduced a little bit about this, is that I wrote, like 10 years ago, I wrote on the Wikipedia, and I wrote, if you have 80% or more OEE, you are world class. That was, I have come to the conclusion with years that was not true. That was false. And why is not true? Because you can have 40% OEE and you can be the best in the world in your thing. Why? Because the question is there anyone who doing the same product that you do with the same resources that you have? Is there anyone who performs better, who has a higher OEE? No, then you're world class. So there is no absolute number in terms of OEE, no absolute thing. It's just something to compare For example, if you change your machinery and you have better machinery now, then you cannot compare your OEE. You can be more efficient, but you cannot say that you're better. You are more efficient because you have a better machine, but not because you are performing better. Indeed, you could be performing worse, but you have a better machine, so that you have a better OEE. Or, for example, your market could change, and now your lots, your work orders are shorter because now your clients are demanding more references, shorter quantities. Now, for example, I don't know if you're aware of this, but today the factories are struggling with raw materials a lot, everywhere. So like 1 year ago, they didn't want to have any stock. Today they're saying, oh, I wish I had bought 4 times the stock I needed, because now I would be king. Okay, so with OEE, you can compare yourself. For example, if your context doesn't change much, if your context changes a lot, then you have to analyze. So it's just a tool. It's just a very good number to know how things are going. And also it has something good, OEE, is that you can turn it into money quite easily. So you can say, okay, we have increased OEE by 1%. That means that we are producing 1% more parts over the total theoretical part that we could produce. So that means in the same period, we're producing this more quantity. So we are lowering the cost per product in this. So once you have an Excel sheet and some time and a little bit of numbers, then you turn that into money. And it could be also turned into CO2 savings or things like that. So then we come to the MES concept that you sure know, manufacturing execution system. I'm not gonna get into things that you most probably know a lot. If you have any question, just ask me. And then something that is happening, and I'm very happy to share with you, is that we are beginning since 2 years or 2 years ago, we're beginning to have many clients in the cloud. That is very good. It's very good because we can provide better service. Those clients do not have to be thinking about their server, their capacity, backups, things like that. And also when they have questions and we provide support is much faster because we have access to their server. We update their versions, we keep them updated. So many benefits for us and for them. And even the future is more open with this approach. And we've been working very hard for the last 6 years, more or less. That's when we started. And now we're very happy because we're having more and more clients in the cloud. And with that, then we have this picture that you see on my screen. So the target is improving, and how is with this virtuous cycle where they see their performance, they change their process, and they see that improvement again, they gain a lot of knowledge. And we are now moving fast towards artificial intelligence, because the next years are going to be where we're going to join what we already have with artificial intelligence. We need computers to help us in more complex ways. So we are, as I mentioned, now what we are doing with artificial intelligence is very similar to what we did 6 years ago with the cloud. So there's not going to be, there are going to be little impacts on our day-to-day work, but there's going to be a very big impact, I guess, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know exactly when, because you never know. This happens. One day you realize that you already have all these users doing all these things. The current version is already doing some things, but they are not artificial intelligence. The current version is, for example, cheering you up and telling you, you did very well, you're improving, keep doing that. But that's we could say that that's artificial intelligence, but that's not indeed internally. So we do not say that. But we have, for example, artificial intelligence for failure prediction. That's real artificial intelligence. But as I mentioned, we're working hard to incorporate many more things with artificial intelligence. So you already probably know this. You need sensors and e-boxes. You need devices which sometimes are external to the machinery, to the process. But if you could read that machinery directly with OPC or any other standard, that would be great. But we put on the first position using e-boxes and sensors because sometimes reading with OPC, it's not easy, it's very expensive, they don't help you to do that, okay? And also very important, that data provided manually by the operators, it's also very valuable, as you probably know. So that's, again, the data information and control and the flow of data and information and how you control is this virtuous cycle that I was mentioning before. Before we talk about other modules, I wanted, as I mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, I wanted to remind you about what you have for support and for information. Academy and support. Please keep in mind you have your academy. In the academy, you have the user's profile, the maintenance and installation, all the software can be downloaded. I hope you know this. You also have a community version that you can install in your computer and you can use it indefinitely for one process. And also, if you are a commercial partner, you have a specific area on the academy for contracts and commercial documents. You have the ticketing platform for support, and to have support, if you have only the community version, you cannot have support. You must use a forum, a free forum for that, for support. But if you have at least one license bought and maintenance, and you pay the periodical maintenance, then you have access to support through the ticketing platform. There's also online support that we can help you on your computer. It's the same thing. Then you have the online support. And I think that's all what I wanted to mention. Okay, then let's go back to the modules. If you go to Edin's webpage and you go to solutions, applications, then you will see the modules that today are available. And below the modules, you have the add-ons. Add-ons are done. You get, for example, you can download these add-ons. You can go to the academy and download these add-ons. These add-ons are typically programmed with Visual Basic.net or similar software, and then you can change that and do your own things. Okay, so that source code is freely available for customers or users. I'm gonna remove the screensaver because it's coming out all the time. So so you have that, and I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about any particular model that you might have interest or any question. Maybe you have thought, is there, I don't know, it's auto control doing whatever, it's quality doing whatever. Any question about the modules?
If I may.
Go ahead, Marco.
Okay, now I would like to understand better, in case I would like to start implementing MES from Edin, if I will understand the first module should to implement is production control OEE, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and I would like to know more about how to implement it, what you can expect to that first module, which kind of device you can connect it, all of these things. Basically, what should I have to do or to plan in order to start with this model, and what can I will be able to do with this first model?
Okay, let's go. Good question. So, first module gives you the view of this that I'm doing now.
An additional question. When I started to implement MES, as I said, the first module is enough to start to already do something, or per default, I need to integrate all the modules fast or immediately or after?
Okay, good question also. I recommend, and we recommend to go step by step. Don't try to run, because one of the problems of technology in general and in this product in particular is that users need to digest the software, need to incorporate it, need to be happy with it, use it, okay? If you provide many modules, then they are not having, they don't have a rest. The brain is always assuming more things, trying to learn more things, and they don't get the money back. So my recommendation is that that's coming from the user. The request to you of, they say, Marco, please, can we go further? Can we install the quality module? Can we move forward? That's when the fruit is mature and it falls down alone without you pulling it and breaking it and having it too green. You know what I mean? So that's really my recommendation. Every time someone has come out with apparently a good idea, saying, no, let's put a lot of modules because that's gonna be, we're gonna do a bigger project that's much better. That's risking a lot. You're risking the whole thing, and risking a reference is not good, because you know clients talk in between each other, and so that's not a good idea. So I typically like the client to be requesting, and it many times happens. So there are many clients which are very involved. They get very involved and they call you and say, I want a new module, please go ahead, things like that, okay? So the production control module is very big, is the biggest. When I say this, is that everything that has to do with monitoring, showing reports which are not quality reports. Well, if it's, for example, this that you're seeing here, which is a control graphic and a histogram, those require the quality module, okay? For example, if I see personnel, this is personnel activity, then you need the personnel module. So what can you monitor with the production control module? You can monitor these things, which is OEE, Pareto's, what has been produced, where, by whom, things like that. You know what I mean, more or less? I'm explaining myself. Anytime you have a question on this, we have personnel that can help you. You have Clara. I know maybe you are not very familiar with Clara, but you can write her and ask her, is this included or not? Apart from this, you have also brochures of the products. Okay. So let me tell you again, just to summarize, production control is pretty big. It allows you to do, for example, everything, the no limitation. You can do the presentation mode, which puts the screen, full screen in a 55 inches screen. You can put this refreshing, no limitation. I mean, there's nothing like, for example, you could say, oh, I have to pay more, or there's another module for me to have a full thing on production control. Not at all. Production control brings everything you need to do OEE, measurements, Pareto's. The thing is, when you want to work on a specific area, for example, imagine you come out with the conclusion that you have quality problems. Then that's a new module. If you want to work on quality, you want to get the detail, because here, for example, production control will tell you, you can see, it can tell you how many bad parts you have. This black area here, which is very little, is quality. So you can monitor quality. Okay, you can monitor quality, but you cannot know certain variables of the quality process because you cannot monitor them and measure them and improve them until you have that quality module. Okay, so you can see where your losses are, but you cannot work on a specific area. For example, imagine you find out that your problem is scheduling. You see that the client is not scheduling automatically, or their work orders delay a lot. They don't have much control on that. And then you want to put the scheduling module. That's a separated module. That's a new module you have to acquire or rent or try. You have 30 days for a free trial in every client all the time. Okay, did I answer more or less your question, Marco?
Not really, because you explained me what I was able to see on the screen, but you don't explain me how do you get the data in order to show them to the screen. So,
okay.
For instance, how do you connect machine?
Okay, that's also included in the module.
Maybe another comment in your website. You mentioned that in more or less 5 days, the customer will be able to run a process or to implement a process. So what does it mean concretely if we can start based on these 5 days?
Okay, two things then to answer your question. First, Marco, everything is documented in Edin. Okay, so we have also documented the methodology to do projects. Okay, if you go to the online help, which you might have access already, and then you go to project introduction here, believe me, Marco, this is not a marketing document that we've done to cover something. This is exactly the methodology that we've experienced with maybe 100 projects. And every time we've seen that we have forgotten anything on the project, we came here and write it down here. I even today, sometimes there's a project and I go to the checklist and I check and say, although I know this in my memory, I have to check because there are things here which I might forget. So first answer to your question. You can see here, this is for example, the summary of the checklist that you have to check before doing a project. So Edin is not just a software, it's also bringing in a methodology, which, by the way, could be common to many projects of digital transformation, but it's particularly designed for the Edin platform. And your second question is, how do you do monitoring? Monitoring, it's not difficult once you know. You need some training for this. You have the server of Edin. You go to the monitor tab, and here you have to define all the electrical signals, counters or signals that you want to monitor. So let me do you a recommendation. First thing you should do as a partner is you should consider hiring a package of hours from Edin. It's a very good investment. You put someone from our team with you, and you do one project with us. My colleague is not going to do the project. It's just going to be with you. I mean, you both, or you, the best it would be that you do it, but with my colleague on your side. So my colleague is going to be explaining you step by step. Once you do a process, maybe two, all processes are the same because the software is standard. It's all standard. There's no particular development done. If there's anything particularly done for someone, it's on a separated place. It's on the API or UDL, these add-ons that I showed you, not here. Here, this screen is common for all the clients. These options and fields and the help is common for all the installations. So that's good in that way. Did I answer now your question, or still some uncertainty there?
It's okay.
Better, but not. I completely understand you, because until you do it, you will still have some pieces of the puzzle which are not on the place. But once you do it, for example, here we have Thomas, which has done a project with me. I was very happy to do that project. So the question is, I'm explaining, is that true, Thomas, that once you do a project, the pieces of the puzzle are there?
Yeah, once you showed me how to do the first, I believe we did 2 machines together. I needed reminding when I started doing my own, because I've been maybe a month or so after we did the first 2 machines, but I implemented 24 machines in that plant with no real hiccups. After you've got like the first couple under your belt, it seems to become second nature.
So here you have the answer. Thomas and me, I didn't remember that. We did maybe 2-3 machines, I remember, more or less.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 when you were in the UK at the time, and then you might have helped with one remotely, and then I just did the rest myself.
And you did 20 something then
Yes.
yourself. And what you had is support. Support is gonna be always necessary, because there might be some strange thing or something that you don't know. I mean, we have some different providers in other aspects. For example, in OPC or PLCs, we have some providers for that. And there's been a while we don't call much, because as Thomas, we have acquired experience on those products and we don't call much. But eventually, maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago, I put a question on the ticketing system. So sometimes you need support. And if you don't have that support, you are in deep trouble, because sometimes just one little issue can block a whole installation. So support is necessary, but you can be completely autonomous, Marco, and that's very important. Not to be depending all the time, paying someone, that's very important.
Now, the issue, the constraint is always to start once. And this is the reason why when we spoke last year, the idea was also to maybe to come to Spain or maybe to a partner of Edin and to be aside in order to see how they are going to implement in these 5 days. Okay, and after it's obvious that the first 2 or 3 projects here in Switzerland, I would be grateful if you can send me people who can help me in order to start with. I'm pretty sure that after 1, 2, 3 projects, I will be mostly autonomous. And after I will bring, I will ask only for support. This I'm pretty sure. But the idea, the issue is always to start.
Yes, it is. That's it. Sometimes you want to do a kind of a demonstration project for a company, because you are certain that if you do that demonstration project, you're gonna get a big project. What some partners that have that need, what they do is what you mentioned. They, for example, come to our offices, or they do it online with us. So they hire someone from Edin for a while, for I don't know, 8 hours or 16 hours, something like that, and they learn. They do a real project, and then they are able to do those pilot demonstrations, those 2-3 pilots, and it's very probable that you get a project after those demonstrations. So let's continue so that we can cover the purpose of the meeting. In case you have any question, please go ahead. So once you have that production control module working, then you can help the client and train the client, the users, on how to get information about processes, results, and persons, which are the 3 more important things to discover their losses and to improve their work. And to do that, you need some concepts that will bring, for example, answering the question of Marco, what does the production control module bring? It also brings you MTBF and MTTR, which is medium time between failures, which is the frequency of all the failures, so that you know which are in every machine, which are the most frequent failures and how frequently they happen on average. And also MTTR, medium time to repair, is on average how many minutes did it take to solve every failure that we have on every process, every machine. Then we have OPC, which is a standard to read and write machinery. Now the latest norm, which is OPC UA, Universal Architecture, is very powerful, and more clients are migrating from OPC DA to OPC UA, and they also need help for this. And then the path concept, which is a concept that we register on intellectual property internationally. And the path concept, maybe you're familiar with it. Let me show you the path. I was on the help already. So this is the path. The path shows you on the vertical axis, it shows you the good production that you have produced. And on the horizontal axis, it shows you the time that you are analyzing. And then this blue line on top is the maximum production possibility, is the 100% OEE. And then you have this green line that's inside has a black line, which is this one that I am pointing. I hope you can see my mouse pointer. And that's the path. I mean, the black dots, which are the real good production, should be in between the green line, which is this here that I'm pointing. The black dots here should be above this green line. That would put my process green, and everyone in the company will see that I'm making the process profitable. And then we have another objective, which is let's say a consolation objective, which is this yellow target here. These guys are finishing in yellow on the shift. And the main reason you can see it was this change ejector lower. That's a failure. That's why it's shown in red, because from 3 hours to 3, from a little bit before 3 to a little bit after 3:30, they were stopped because of this change ejector lower, and that ruined the. I think we have another attendant, Iyad. Welcome. And so because of this failure of about 30 minutes, these guys couldn't finish green. They finished yellow. So you can even know what caused you to not be green, to not be profitable on this shift. Okay. So you have the explanation of the path in the help. It's a very useful graphic, which I have a demo here. Some clients say, I want to have the path together with other data. For example, we have here a hourly dashboard, which tells me the production per hour, how many were bought, how many were produced. I'm gonna start my factory already, so that we begin gathering data, so that we begin generating some data. You can have this in your computer also. And there is a video. Maybe you don't know this. Maybe Thomas, you might be interested eventually to have in your own laptop FlexSim simulator. There is a video which explains you how to do this. So you can have FlexSim. FlexSim is free, this version, and with this demo that I'm showing here, you can have all these that you see can be free, because you can have a community version with one process for editing, and this version 2019 that I will have here. I don't know if FlexSim has changed. I don't think so. They don't have changed probably their offer on this, and I got it free just by registering. So I guess it's still free, so you can have this for your own demo and to try many things and to show potential users what they can do with the editing platform. So let us continue with the content of the meeting. Then it's important to know the concept of area. Area is a group of processes, okay? And it's also a very powerful idea, because it allows us to create groups of processes for many things. For example, some people want to see their production line. They want to see it as a group of processes. Okay. Some people want to see the whole factory as an area. Some people want to see, for example, all the machines that are from the same technology. For example, if I have many machines and I want to monitor packagers, and I have packagers in different plants, then I can create an area which is called packagers, and I have all the machinery which are packagers I have on that area. So area is powerful because we did it so that every user can have their own areas. That's very good. So every user and each user can see different areas. I can have areas that someone do not see, that does not see, okay? So the concept of area is very powerful. Area is when I am, for example, taking a look to reports. Area is what you have here on the left. It's this group. This group that you see here, group 3, it's an area. And many reports support areas. So I can say, I want to have I want to know what happened today, for example, yesterday in terms of ratios for this robot, or I want to see 2 robots, or I want to see the whole area. If I click the whole group, then I just have one line. That's very important. That's very good to have only one line because I'm seeing how it behaves as a group. It could be a plan, and this can be multi-level. We have clients with many levels here, okay? So I could say, I want to see the OEE of my whole company, having 3 plants below that whole company area, okay? That's very powerful, to be able to mix different areas. Just by clicking the area, I have the report. That's nice. And I can click on it if they are interactive. So if I click on it, it will show me the processes which form that area. And I can click further, by the way. Typically, you can drill down until the highest detail. Okay, I hope you saw how did I did this, how did I do this, which is I was seeing the area, I click on it, then it brought me to the robots which belong to that area, which compose that area, and then I clicked on a robot and I saw the detail of that. Any question, please go ahead at any time, as you know. And then it's also important to know the concept of status. Status is what can happen to a process. For example, here, if I make this a little bit more little, then I see the button status here, which is something very nice from the Edin terminal, is that it's pretty easy to use, to understand. Our users tell us that they train one operator can train another one in an hour, more or less. So it's pretty easy to use. So if I have a process here and I click status, then I see what's going on to the process, what has been going on to the process. Now it is working. I'm going to create a failure here. Let me show you. I'm going to have a perspective of the 4 processes, and I'm going to create a failure on the process 3. How do I create failures on Flexim? I say that it takes a huge amount of time to process. Now, as you can see, the parts are being stuck there because process 3 cannot process them. It will take a lot of time to process one part. So this behaves exactly as a failure on process 3. And now the Edin is not detecting it on real time because it has to determine if it is a micro stop or if it's a complete failure. It is now calculating that. If we went to the logs of the server, let me open this connection again. If we went to the logs of the server, you could see in real time, if you have a little knowledge on how to interpret this, you could see how the Edin server is now doing all the calculations to determine in which state is, for example, the process 2. It is calculating, waiting, dumping, it's doing many, many things this might seem simple, but it is very complex indeed to determine with precision of seconds which was the process that caused the failure to the whole line. Now the whole line, the whole production line is stopped because there's one process which is stopped, which is the third one. And now you can see that the other three processes are in orange color, which means that they are stopped because they depend on someone else, on another process. Okay, I guess you're familiar with this already. So let's continue with other subjects. Working order. You probably know this concept. The work order is the list of things that must be produced in a process. And then we have result, which is the result of the working order. It's sometimes results are called references or parts or products, even products. Okay. So now we have here an exercise which might give us a better view of how the editing works and also how OEE works. So I'm open, before we start with that exercise, which is the last part of our meeting, I'm open to questions now. If you, before getting into that, we can also solve questions after or in the middle of the exercise. But maybe now you have some questions, or you want to see any particular functionality on the system. Any questions so far?
I'm all good here. I think it's been all good so far.
Great. Tony, Eyad, any question?
No, everything seems pretty clear. Thank you.
Actually, I joined late. Hi for everyone. I would like to ask about MTBF and MTTR, how the system will calculate this. And if already explained in the video, maybe I can watch the video later on.
Okay. So your question was how you can collect the data?
Calculate the MTBF and MTTR.
Okay, great. Sorry.
Actually, because we know that there is two different types of MTBF and MTTR. Something related to maintenance, which is failure at the machine, and something related to operation, which is a process failure.
Okay. MTBF and MTTR are shown when you click on a process, and here you have MTBF and MTBFP. MTBF shows you, I don't have failures now because this is a demo and I don't have enough data. If this was a real installation, you would have here a summary of all the failures that have occurred in a certain period. Which period can be indicated here on the server. When you go to calculations, here you can say limit period to, and you say the minutes. In this case is 1 week. 10,040 minutes is 1 week. So here, if I was playing with this factory for a while, then I would have here a summary of, it says, it shows you every status which is failure here, and then the quantity of times that it occurred in the last week, and the minutes of MTBF, which is every how many minutes average it happened in the last week. So for example, it says electrical failure happened 5 times in the last week, and MTBF is 2 days. So every 2 days we're having an electrical failure. And then MTTR, it would say, imagine 90 minutes, which means that those 5 electrical failures took on average. So if you do an average of the 5, it took 90 minutes per failure to come back to production. And then it says next, which means if the last failure occurred, imagine it occurred yesterday, and we were saying that we have a electrical failure every 2 days, then it says, as it occurred yesterday, it will occur tomorrow, and then it will tell you the time. So this is not failure prediction. There's no neural network behind this. There is another module for that. This is particularly useful and simple. This is pretty simple. It's just mathematics, and it's used very often and very widely. So that's one place that you have MTBF. And then in many other ratios, many other reports, you can have MTBF. For example, I can say I want to see on the current week, I want to see how the robot line went, and then I want to see MTBF also. And it will add the MTBF, MTTR, and MTBF quantity columns to the ratios report. It might take a little bit longer, but there you have that information which here it doesn't tell me which failure it is. It just tells me that every 64 minutes average, I had a failure on this robot. Okay, and it took me only 2 minutes. That's very fast for these guys. Only 2 minutes to solve average. So you might have some failures might be maybe 10 minutes. Some other might be 1 minute, but the average is this. And this happened 121 times, which is a lot. Okay. There are other places that you can see MTBF, MTTR. So any more questions? Ejad?
Yes, it's great. Actually, we are facing one issue with our customer. He said, I don't need to include the short stops, which is the stops below 5 minutes in my MTBF and MTTR. So he needs to capture the failure. Yeah, or the micro stop below 5 minutes.
Okay, I think micro stops should appear there, don't they? Because I'm asking because maybe you already tested this or whatever. In my thought, micro stops appear on that table, are considered there because they are considered as a failure, little failure, but it's a failure.
Actually, we was not understanding the numbers there. Okay, but now when you explain the period or the duration in the server, it makes sense for us. So maybe we need to come back to our data and we'll look for it again.
Okay.
And I will come back to you if I have a challenge here.
Okay. Something very important that we are not seeing on this meeting is how you manage a project, the steps, the methodology. Marco already asked about that. And I think Clara could organize another meeting specifically because this meeting today is talking about production control, but not project realization. So if Marco in the future has interest or whoever of you has interest, please send an email to Clara and say, I would like to have a webinar where we focus on doing a project as real as possible. Okay, we can do that with using FlexSim. We can do that as real as possible. Sometimes I've done that webinar. I think there are even some videos. Maybe if Marco poses this question, maybe Clara is gonna send him an initial video to see if that is good enough, or we have to do a specific meeting. So any more questions before we go into the exercise? Everything is clear, so let's move on. Okay, let's do this exercise, which might clarify a little bit some things. So the objective of this exercise is to control one production line consisting of 4 productive simulated processes, which is, by the way, the example I was showing on screen. For this, the student should consider. So let's try to memorize things. Processes work 5 days per week. So that might be from Monday to Friday, and 5 hours per day, from 9 to 2. We're gonna change that. It's gonna be from 3 to, I don't know, 7, because now we are 4 o'clock or something, for 3. So we're gonna change those hours. The line has produced 1950 pieces, good pieces, in the last week. 19,050 good pieces in the last week. Because of physical limitations of the processes, they can produce a maximum of 1,200 pieces per hour. Marco, this exercise might be of interest for you, because in some way we're going to do a project here. When we say you can do a production line or a production process in 1 week, this is the kind of things you do in that week. The worker has the legal right of a 20-minute stop every day at 11. That makes sense. The tasks that the operator performs are preparation at the start of production. The company only accepts 2 minutes for preparation. Cleaning, the company only accepts 5 minutes. And reference change, the company only accepts 3 minutes for this. The problems that the operator usually faces are problems. In this case, we can see there are failures. Failure of type 1 and 2. There are 2 types of failure. And then we have electrical failure, and then we have lack of raw material. Lack of raw material wouldn't be a failure. It's important to go to the help and see what you have for statuses. Status. And here you will see, let me see where, status configuration. By configuring status, where are the types of statuses? What is a status here? If you go to a status, then you will see there are 5 types of statuses. Okay, so you have production, which is clear, working. Idle, it's shown in yellow. It means stopped, but it's not a failure. So the machine or the process is not broken. It's just not working. Okay, so let me repeat. Idle is when the process is not broken, doesn't need any fix, any repairment. It's just because it's stopped because maybe it's cleaning, it's being adjusted, it's being I don't know, checked, something that doesn't allow the process to produce, but it's not broken. Then we have dependence, which is the process is waiting for another process or another thing. Okay, this that the exercise was saying, lack of raw material, typically is considered a dependence. Okay, then we have failure shown in red, which is the process is stopped because of a failure. The process is typically broken or needs some intervention for it to continue working. And then we have the 5th status, which is not scheduled to produce, which means that the process is not intended to produce. The company does not consider that time mandatory for the process to produce. It's very important that you know that statuses, dependence, and not scheduled to produce do not subtract from OEE. So I can be all day in not scheduled to produce, which is color gray, or I can be all day in a dependent status and my OEE is gonna be 100%. And that's good as it is. Some clients say, I want all my processes to be working all the time. That's not a good idea. Processes must work when they have to work, okay? Not all the time. Because that can lead you to overstocking, for example, which is not good. Although now all factories are struggling with raw materials and they wish they had stocked far more than they stocked when they could, as you probably know this. So, but we hope this is just temporal and companies go back to the minimum stock policy or theory as soon as possible. So the company indicates that they need to produce 23,800 good pieces per week with a quality of 90% and a minimum speed of 1,175 pieces per hour. So that's the declaration of the exercise. Then we have these employees, project leader, director, supervisor to operator. This is not very critical at this point. And to perform this exercise, here you have a link to download all the elements I can provide you with this material, with this PowerPoint, if someone is interested. And here you have a link to videos, to the FlexSim, to register, to request the FlexSim, to download the Edin server, and all the things that I have installed on my computer can be installed from this PowerPoint slide. And these are the questions. So let's take a look to the questions and let's try to solve that. What OEE was obtained in the last week? First question. So what OEE did they have in the last week? What percentage of availability they need? So what is the target of availability for these guys, for this company? What's the target of availability? The third question is, what percentage of OEE do they need? So what's the target of OEE that they need according to the things they told you, okay? Something that I want before solution to this, I want to share with you something very important from the projects. When you go to a client, very frequently, someone is joining. Very frequently, they want to solve the theoretical questions, this data that we have here. They want to answer that by doing complex analysis. For example, I remember 2 weeks ago, I was visiting a client and I was posing some questions to improve the Edin system that they have. And in some of my questions, they were tempted to start analyzing very complex things that might take them many hours of calculations. My recommendation is don't fall in the pitfall of paralysis by excess of analysis. So my recommendation is to be very practical. And if as these guys, for example, they have Edin, just take the numbers by, say what you guess instead of trying to do a super complex, super expensive analysis. Just put what you guess, and then by using the graphics that we already saw, like for example, the path, you can fine tuning that data. Okay, is that clarifying anything to anyone? So is that happening to you, that you see that clients sometimes make things very complicated? That's what I have seen. Some users tend to complicate a lot, and that's blocking them from going forward and seeing their processes and improving. So my recommendation is, for example, why am I mentioning this? Because if you are not certain if the line produced 1950 or 19100, that's not very relevant. That's just 1% change, okay? Or if you are not certain if you need 23,800, 23,900, doesn't make much difference. Let's have the Edin working, and then with the graphics and the data, we'll get into a lot of detail. You will perfectly know if it's 23,800, 23,950. You will know it with the system, but don't try to do that manually, because it's gonna block you and gonna block the advance to begin improving and making profits. So let's start. What I do on these exercises is I open an Excel. I always use Excel for this, as you probably do the same. I'm going to open an Excel sheet, and I'm going to start putting the different data that I have. I'd like you to help me on this. So let's start. Can you read it? More or less, you can, right? You can do this a little bit more little. Now it's better. And we can do this bigger. Much better now. So let's go. Please remember the questions. OE was obtained in the last week. Let us put the question here. OE in the last week. That's fair question. percentage target of availability. The second question. And last, percentage target of OE. This is what we need to answer. And now let's go to the data we have. So these guys work 5 days per week. Okay? And they work 5 hours per day. So now we can calculate how many hours per week easily. Easy so far. The line has produced 19 and 50 good pieces in the last week. 19,050 pieces in the last week. That's clear. And because of physical limitations of the process, they can produce a maximum of 1,200 pieces per hour. 1,200 pieces per hour. What do you think is this? Is this quality? Is this availability? Or this is speed? Someone brave to answer this.
Speed loss.
Speed, correct. So this is speed. Speed, because it says they can produce a maximum of 1,200 pieces per hour. Okay, the worker has the legal right of 20 minutes stop. 20 minutes stop. So we're not working 25 hours per week. We're working less because legally these guys have 20 minutes stop per shift. So every 5 hours. So that makes 20 minutes per 5. 100 minutes of legal stop. Therefore, I am producing 25 hours per 60 minutes minus 100. So this is minutes available per week. So let us put this as a formula. So it's 25 hours per 60 multiplied by 60 minutes less or minus 100 minutes, which are illegal stop. This is the maximum time available. So my OE is going to be calculated upon those 1,400 minutes. Okay? The task that the operator performed, this might be necessary. This is very confusing when you are a beginner on this. When you are a rookie on this, all these of the preparation and the statuses are confusing. Let us leave that for later, okay? And also the types of failures. Let us go to the last data. It says the company indicates that they need to produce 23,800 good pieces per week. So they need to produce, or let's put pieces per week needed to produce. With a quality of 98%, that's the minimum quality they need. So that will be quality. And minimum speed. Here they are saying speed minimum of 1,175 pieces per hour. Okay, so we have all the data available to us now in a different way, in a way that we can calculate and understand better. So is everyone following so far? Yes. So let's go to the first question. OE in the last week. Would you like to have some minutes to think about this, or would you like me to go straight to the solution? We can vote.
Both.
So Thomas, straight to the solution, or do you
Yes,
want
sure,
to?
the solution.
Okay.
We
So
we
let's
would
go
like to
straight
drink.
to
Yes,
the
yes.
solution.
Good for me.
Okay. OEE has an approximation which is very useful. OEE is good parts, good pieces, divided by total maximum theoretical pieces. Okay? And that's an approximation. If someone has a special interest, this is for the higher mark, the highest mark, for the best in class. If someone is particularly interested, I can share with him a particular case which makes this statement false. But in general, and I use it every day, the approximation which is valid is OEE equals good parts produced divided by theoretical parts that could have been produced. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because OEE is a production efficiency ratio. So if I did 50 parts and I could have produced in that time going at the highest speed, the top speed, maximum speed, with no quality problems and no stopping, all the time working, if I could have done 100 and I did 50, then I have 50% OA. Okay. So answering this question, do we have how many good pieces they produced in the last week? Yes, we have it. 19,050. So to calculate the OEE, which is good pieces produced divided by theoretical pieces that could have been produced. If we do that, we have part of the problem. And then now we have to calculate the theoretical maximum quantity that could have been produced. To calculate this, we need to do the following. We need to know how many minutes we should have been working, which is 400, okay? And now we need to know how many pieces at the maximum top speed we could produce per minute. Any question? Go ahead at any time. So the theoretical parts or pieces that could have been produced is these minutes. And now we need here, if this is the maximum speed, this now it's in on per hour, we need to convert it to minutes. Okay, so this is 1,260 minutes. So in 1 minute, it's gonna be this multiplied by this and divided by that. So it's 20 per minute. So I can now multiply all the minutes by the maximum speed. So finally, my OEE is gonna be the division of the quotient of that. So now we have the OEE, which is 68. Okay, any questions so far? We'll do a test later. There is a test that you can do, which is, as you know, OEE is the multiplication of availability multiplied by speed. By the way, some authors don't say speed, they say performance. We prefer, or efficiency. I can even heard some people saying efficiency to speed. For me, it's confusing. It has been confusing many years, and we voted to go for the concept of speed because it's much clearer, okay, in our opinion. And then we have quality. So the availability ratio of these guys, the speed and the quality, we can multiply and compare with the 68, and it should be very, very similar or equal. So first question, Done. 60. Let's go to the next question. Target of availability. Which target of availability do these guys have? Target of availability do these guys have? Let us think a little bit. So, and that's the tricky part. If you try to solve that question, you're gonna dedicate a lot of time. And this exercise is very nice because in real projects, you will be tempted to do this the wrong way. Let me explain you. Some people will say, okay, for the availability, we have cleaning and preparation, and we prepare on every work order. And I think we have average like 2-3 work orders per week on this machine. So if I have to subtract the 30 minutes or 20 minutes that go with the preparation, then the average availability would be, and that's talking and complex and complex and complex. Indeed, it's super difficult. So I'm gonna show you a different way, much better. Availability is super complex to calculate, but quality is super easy. Speed is super easy, and OEE is super easy. Then why don't we get availability by dividing? Why don't we get availability from the rest of the ratios? And that's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna answer this question here. What's the target of availability? I don't know. I'm gonna go for the target of OEE. Do we have the target of OEE? I think so, because this guy said needed to produce 23,800. So if you needed to produce this, and you maximum can produce 28,000, then that's your target OE. 85%. By the way, they are way below their target OE by almost 20 points. So is anyone in confusion now? Is everyone clear on how did I calculate the target of the OE? Easy, right? Is parts that they need to produce divided by the total parts that they can produce maximum. Okay, so that's 85% OE. Any questions so far? It's easy. Once you have more or less the concepts, it's very easy. No questions?
Very
Tony,
clear.
no question? Easy?
That seemed pretty straightforward.
Right.
Actually, what we are facing is the factory. They are setting the OE target, and from there, they will understand how much they need to produce today. They calculated the reverse, but now it's very clear.
Okay. I mean, calculating the top, the maximum quantity that you can produce should be very easy. It's very easy. Although what I see in real projects is that people tend to complicate it. They say, okay, imagine I'm producing mouses, okay? And I have a machine which assembles the mouse. My question is to the client, to the user, what is the maximum speed to assemble one mouse? And they tell me, imagine it's 1 per second. That's the top speed. Don't think further, because sometimes they begin saying, no, but sometimes we lower that speed because if it goes at 1 per second, sometimes it's not mounting correctly. But what's the top speed? I mean, I'm not saying this because I want. I'm saying this because the theory says that you want to know what your losses are. And if you have losses because you cannot go on 1 per second because you have quality problems, you want to know that, because in that way you will have the Pareto, and you will see that quality problems or problems because of the speed or whatever, and you will be working against that. You will be improving that so that you get to your physical limitation, which is 1 per second. Can you go? There's another thing to be thinking about, and is sometimes some clients have told me, okay, David, this machine can, I remember it was paper rolls, and big paper rolls, huge paper rolls. And they told me this machine can roll or unroll a paper roll. It can unroll that at 800 linear meters per hour, if I remember well, more or less. But that's completely impossible. The machinery builder, they say this, but if we put 400, that's the super maximum, because sometimes it breaks the paper. Maybe the machine was designed for a different paper, but not for our paper. So we have to be careful on the specificities of the clients, and maybe 800 linear meters per minute or per hour, sorry, that's impossible. Maybe that's impossible. So let's don't put ourselves in a position where we always have 30% loss of something which cannot be solved. It's impossible to solve that. So that we consider a physical limitation. But apart from physical limitations, we gotta go to that. We gotta go to the physical limitations, to the final physical limitation, until we change the machine or the technology, so that opens new possibilities. So once you determine that, then, and I'm trying to answer you, Ayad, I think it was Ayad, or I don't know if it was Ayad or Mohammed, but the answer to your question, Ayad, is once you know the physical limitations, then you should calculate how many pieces you need to make money. That's the second step. So by the physical limitations, you know the maximum top quantity that you can produce. With the minimum number of parts that you need to produce to make money, and not just money, the EBITDA, the percentage, and the profits that the company requires, that can be calculated. Imagine if we simplify the problem. Imagine we have a hamburger machine, and we're selling each hamburger for $1 or €1, and we calculate all the costs, and our costs are X. Then we know we have to sell and produce these so many hamburgers at the end of the year in order to pay the machine, to pay the rent of the place we are, to pay our salaries, to pay all our expenses. So finally, you can calculate how many hamburgers you need, and you can see that you don't have enough machinery to produce those hamburgers. Maybe you need more resources to produce the number of hamburgers. So you should have spare capacity in case bad things happen, and you can calculate that. Once you calculate that, then you have the target OEE, and then you can even play a little bit and say, if I put the green target to the operators, they're gonna get on the green target, so we're not gonna make money. Why don't we put that we make money on the yellow target, and then we add a 10% or 15%, so that we have the operators motivated to go for the green target. So we're making money just with the yellow target, but they are making the company more profitable by following and trying to achieve the green target, okay? So that's not difficult to calculate neither. You can do that, okay? Did I answer your question more or less?
Yes, very clear. Actually, you trigger me for another question, which is in some machine, the same machine have different speed with different product. If we are using a filling machine, for example, and we are filling a big bottle, the speed lower than small bottle. So how we can consider this in Eden when the machine run different product?
Yes, you have a concept called PSR relation, which is process status result. So you would put a different speed, maximum speed per process, per status, per result. And then for the objectives, you can put targets, OE targets, by component. So you can put the target for availability, quality, and speed on the level of process, on the level of area, and also you can put for a particular result in a particular process, you can also put a target, also separated by components. Edin will take the most concrete, and if it doesn't have a concrete data, if you don't have a relationship, then it will search lowest level, okay, lower level. So if no more questions, if there are more questions, we answer that, and if no, we can continue, and we're almost finished. So I continue. Any more questions, go ahead at any time. So we have the target OEE, and we just have one question pending, which was the difficult one. And if we got stuck there, we wouldn't finish, because that's very complex, okay? What's the target of availability of these guys? As I mentioned, when you do projects, you're gonna be tempted by clients to begin calculating this in a different way, which is how many failures we might have, how many cleaning, preparation, super complex. I never get into that. I do it this way. What I do is I say, okay, OE is availability, speed, and quality. Do I have target OE? Yes, 85%. Do I have target of speed? Yes, it was, I don't know where it was. I can calculate it. This is the speed minimum divided by the maximum speed. Let me see, something is wrong. Okay, I put a comma here, and here a comma means point, because this is using the Spanish system. So now it is correct. So now let's put this into a percentage so it is clearer for everyone. So now we have the speed target. Do we have the quality target? Yes, it was provided by them. Quality target is typically provided by the client because it's very easy. They typically know every 100 parts that we produce, we maximum can have 5 wrong, things like that. This is typically known by clients. Also, the speed target is known by clients because they say, my machine can produce 1,200 parts per hour, and I don't allow my operators to change that speed. Maximum, I allow them to lower until a 10%. That would be the maximum. If it goes below 90% of the maximum speed, I want to be noticed. I want to see it in red when I see the speed analysis, okay? And then we have availability. How do you calculate this? You know already how to calculate this by division. If I divide OE divided by the multiplication of speed and quality, I am calculating the availability target. So finally, we also know the availability target. This exercise, and we could try to calculate the availability that they had last week. Maybe we cannot, because I don't think we have enough information to calculate that. And the quality, we don't have the quality. So we have to believe that this data, approximated data, 68% OE is correct, which it's correct. So finally, the exercise is solved. So now our meeting is done. The objective has been achieved. And now I am open. I have here a Flexi, a server, and I have a terminal. In case any one of you could have any additional question or thing you would like to take a look or solve. For example, I guess you're familiar with this. You can have your own dashboards on the terminal. You can see this from your mobile phone. You can have this dashboard that I'm showing you. We can provide the source code to you of this dashboard. If someone has experience programming with the API of Edin, or someone has a colleague or someone in their company who can program, you could do all these things here that I'm showing with the mouse can be completely customized for every client, because we can provide you this source code, as I mentioned. Let me solve this failure that I created here, so I can put the factory back to work, and having that, we can start maybe answering some questions or maybe finishing the meeting. So questions, anyone could ask about what would be the next steps of Edin, where are we investing for the next version, when the next version is coming out. If you would like to do commercial activities, if you would like to cooperate with you already, Marco, we already talked with Marco about this in the beginning of the meeting, how we could boost the commercial activities in your areas. I don't know, I'm open to whatever conversation you would like to have, or we can finish here and we cover the meeting. Any questions, comments? No questions? Tony, Eyad?
I think everything's pretty clear on my part, at least.
Thomas?
Yeah, it's all good for me here.
Okay, you are a very experienced guy on Edin, and I don't know if I provided you much value, because you many of these things you already knew.
And no, it was good to have a refresher, because I've not been hands-on with implementation for a while now, so it's good to have a refresher.
Great. We can, as I mentioned, we can have a particular meeting if you would like. Just please write to Clara. Clara is our marketing head, so you can write her and say, I would like to do a project development. Marco might be also interested in this. We can do a webinar, so that instead of, because this was useful, the exercise and some of the, as you mentioned, some of the reflections, the ideas might be useful, but sometimes going step by step, creating a project since the beginning, although there's nothing like a real project. So we can do that as a laboratory project, but like a real project, there's nothing, because every client has different particularities that can come out, and we learn a lot. In fact, one learns by doing projects, different things. Every project has a particularity that forces you to learn something special. If there are no questions, no more questions, I see. Thank you very much for your time. This wouldn't be impossible if without you all. And we are really open and willing to talk and to work with you. We are investing a lot in different areas. Edin is gonna, this year is gonna be of let's say little improvements, but we are preparing a major change for next year. So the big change is gonna be the 2023, sorry, version. So do not expect major changes on this year, just an evolution, which is where the recent version, for example, had improvements in big data and some other things, which are I'm very happy to see how the solution is super stable and more efficient and better. But as I mentioned, the strategy says that next year is the big change. So thank you very much, and hope to see you very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Shukran.